It was the second to last house that we looked at. And as soon as we walked in, you could feel the house wrapped us in love. It was just like a warm hug, and just the smell and the feel. When we first drove up the driveway, there were 2 does waiting for us at the top of the backyard. It was just such a good feeling. And so I knew right away it was the house.
But this is my house, Mommy. The one I asked Mr. Kringle for. It is. I know it is.
Welcome to The Pursuit of Home, coming to you from New York City. This is real people buying real estate and their unique journey to get there. We share the tips, tricks, and frameworks to help you navigate the bumps in the road that you won't see on reality TV or social media, and which no one has talked about until now. These are the emotional, psychological, ethical, and even spiritual challenges you're more than likely to encounter yourself. Learn from experts who've been there and hang out with me, Scott Harris, your host, who's helped thousands of people buy homes in Manhattan over the last 2 decades. Welcome to The Pursuit of Home, where we explore what it really means to find and create a place to call home. Today's conversation is about something deeply personal, how a home can become a place of healing, comfort, recovery, and love, especially after life's hardest moments. It's this very vulnerable journey that's had such a profound impact on Gretchen Schoser, who joins us today. Gretchen is a mental health advocate and a co-host of the award-winning podcast, Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, with her co-host Dirty Skittles. It launched in 2023 and has garnered over 400,000 downloads in more than 60 countries. Their podcast aims to normalize conversations about mental health, destigmatize discussions, and provide support through personal stories, humor, and expert insights. She goes by G-Rex. In case you...
In the house.
If you look her up, G-Rex is already in the house. But the question I have before I bring Gretchen really on is, where does real estate and mental health connect? I mean, there's no question, having done this for 20 years, that when you set out to find a home, it can feel overwhelming, like you're not going to get anywhere, like you're completely alone in the process, and your mind can definitely play tricks on you. But Gretchen's journey into mental health advocacy is so personal, and we're going to talk about that here, along with her own home search. She came from the tech world, where she consulted Fortune 500 companies, offering strategic solutions, but when it came time to buy a home for herself, the journey became about much more than the process or strategy. We're going to talk about how her home became part of her healing. And so I don't want to tell the whole story. I want to just get going. So Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
Gretchen, you spent 15 years solving complex problems for Fortune 500 companies. I'm imagining you're pretty process-driven, you're logical. Did that part of you show up when you were searching for your home, or did this become a more emotional journey than you expected?
Oh, I went all in on the tech. So before we moved up, I was going through all the listings, and I put everything into a spreadsheet and mapped out where everybody was and kind of where we wanted to end up. And I handed it to my wife, and she's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "This is where the places I want to go see." There were 50 places, right?
You were going from where? You were going from Florida to?
From South Florida to upstate New York. And she's like, "We're not going to be able to see all these houses. We need to narrow this down." And so on my spreadsheet, I had number of bedrooms, number of baths, where it was located, did it have any acreage, what the political affiliation was for the best that I could find it. She's like, "We wouldn't get this from anybody else." So I'm like, "Well, you know what? I wanted to do my homework because I was ready to leave South Florida." I'm like, "Well, we need to find someplace."
And how did you settle into upstate New York? Was that, you had some personal connection there?
Kind of a crazy story. We were up here for a family reunion in 2019 and really fell in love with the area. I'd lived in South Florida for 30 years. I was over the people and the heat and everything. And we just found it super beautiful and quiet. And I could breathe good here, and I could smell all the flowers. And yes, I get it. It does snow up here, but I grew up in Colorado. So, it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you've lived in snow, you don't forget what it's like. And, all my friends and my family were like, "You guys are crazy. Why are you going to do this?" And I'm like, "Because I'm done living in South Florida."
You needed a big change. So you have this spreadsheet. And by the way, you should know, having worked with lots of different people who want to buy, I sometimes get access to that spreadsheet. People share it with me and say, okay, here it is. Here are the notes. And they start showing. And so a lot of it's not uncommon that people are data oriented and they want to do that. But was there a time when you had to start trusting your gut over the data?
Yeah, kind of. Like everything looks all well and good in pictures. But then like when you get to the property, you're like, oh, this was nothing like I expected it to be. There were a lot of oohs and ahs, and I'm like, how did this make the list?
Meaning like all of a sudden you're like, okay, we thought it was checklist worthy. And then wait a minute. Nope.
Like there was this one, like, because I didn't know that the area, right? I didn't know the areas we were looking at. And one was like on a state highway. I mean, the house was beautiful, but like, I didn't want to be around that much traffic. So that immediately came off the list. I mean, we did go see it.
Right. So you realized there were things, intangibles or really tangibles, that you hadn't thought to put on the checklist that immediately disqualified it.
That and it helped out. Like I also made sure that like every place that we looked had internet access because I was still working at the time, and I needed to be able to like log into work because I was going to work remote. And so that made the list. But like the things I didn't put on the list that I should have is like, what kind of utilities are they going to be? Is it gas or electric? Like how far are you from the nearest town? Like I didn't have that. And we lucked out with a real estate agent that really helped us, somebody that grew up in the area. And that was a huge help.
Somebody who maybe knew the questions you weren't asking. And so that when you first stepped into that house, the house you actually bought, do you remember what you felt in your body and your heart when it said like, this is it, Gretchen?
Yeah, this was the second to last house that we looked at. And as soon as we walked in, you could feel like the house wrapped us in love. It was just like a warm hug, and it just the smell and the feel. And, when we first drove up the driveway, there were 2 does waiting for us at the top of the backyard. And I just thought that was the coolest thing because remember, we were coming from South Florida. You don't see that, okay? And like a huge pine tree and an outside garage and this gigantic house. Like, okay, when we moved, we probably should have downsized, but you know why? We went from 1,700 square feet to 2,700 square with a full basement. And stairs now, right? Like I hadn't done stairs in like 30 years. I am in such great shape now because of the house. So like it was like so many things. Number one, the house is really old, like built in 1865. So you have all this like really cool history in here, but it's also like the love. I just felt it like wrap around me as soon as I walked in the house. My wife said the same thing. It was like a really kind of cool feeling. Like I even went into the basement. And I hate going to the basement because that day, like I had seen enough basements to satisfy me for the rest of my life, like the scary basements. But like I even went into the basement here, and we went upstairs, and the rooms were beautiful and, original hardwood floors, original, windows, original front door. And it was just such a good feeling. And so I knew right away it was the house.
And when you found the house, it wasn't like the house was in perfect condition. You had to do a fair amount of fix up, right? So you, even in its state, when you saw it, you're like, okay, that image of being wrapped in love, that's not something I've ever heard from a buyer ever. That's a really powerful image. That's what when you were going up to the house and walking, you're like, it just had a feeling to you.
I did. It just had this like, it was such a warm, welcoming feeling. Even the crazy, like, lipstick red dining room, or the hot pink bedroom that was upstairs. like none of that turned me away because I felt everywhere I walked in the house, it was just a house that was filled with love and it had been filled with laughter. And, this beautiful porch on the backside of the house and all the greenery around us. We live on 8 acres here in upstate New York, and it was just beautiful. And it's hard to explain, especially if, because we were coming from South Florida, getting ready to move up here. And we came in October. So it was already fall, but like even the fall colors, I'm like, God, it's so beautiful here. Because when you live in Florida, you see 3 things: green, greener, and greenest. Here, we saw everything. And it was like the crispness in the air. It all added to it. It all added to wanting to do this and be happy with it.
And you said that you had this relationship with an agent who had grown up in the area. Did you ever find out, oh, that was old man so-and-so and that family had been there forever and like they were really nice people? Or, did you ever, or have you started to hear that over time that people knew that the people you bought from?
Yeah. So our real estate agent had used to babysit the kids that lived in the house. And we got introduced to them. And now they're some of our closest friends.
The kids that...
The parents, the whole family.
Huh.
Yeah, the kids are still young. They're like 14 and 15 now.
So something about the energy in that house and just everything about it felt right. And I want to go into, so before you were there and now, did it change the way you thought about what home means as you?
It did, because here's, we moved from South Florida and, we'd come up here and the house in Florida was nice and everything, but because of the heat, we could just never go outside or even want to go outside. But here, being in the house and even just stepping out onto the porch, you still feel that love. It still comes. It's in like every single room. Sitting out on my porch, just looking out into the yard. Sitting in our living room, we have a chandelier that was part of the house. And I looked it up. It's like an $8,000 chandelier, and it's got like lead crystal in it. And every time Cheryl raises her arm, she knocks off one of those baubles. I'm like, how many times do I have to tell you, don't stand underneath the chandelier, you're going to die. But like all the things that they put into that house, that, the previous owners had done a lot of work to this house. They'd put in 40 brand new windows. They had redone the bathroom upstairs. And like walking into the house was like walking into like a 5-star resort. It just, everything that they did and made it aesthetically like pleasing, but it's also the little details, like the cabinets in the kitchen. They're all wood, all original. The tile floor, the windows, like how we have our storm windows now. Things like that, and things like we don't want to change because it would take away from the aesthetics of the house. And so we just kind of deal with it. Bubble wrap in the windows in the winter.
Right. You're willing to sacrifice a little bit of comfort or whatever for a different kind of comfort, maybe.
We are. The only significant thing that we've done was put in central air.
Okay. Well, that's a pretty significant thing.
Because it was hot. And, I didn't want to be hot anymore. I lived in hot forever and didn't want to be hot. And so that's the only like real significant thing we did. And then we had a carport put in, just for a place for our cars. But even sitting outside, right? Like I'm saying, the love is there, and it's not something that I had felt in any other house that I'd lived in, except for maybe the house that I grew up in Colorado. But it brings a sense of calm. And with that sense of calm, like I started to lose weight because I felt so much better being where I was. And I was getting a ton of exercise because I was going up and down the stairs like 5 times a day. I've never done that many stairs. Like, I don't have to go to the gym. I get 3 miles a day right here in my house. and I'm okay with that. But like, it's also the things that are attractive to the house. Like, we've made really good friends here, like stronger friendships here than I did in the 30 years that I lived in South Florida. It's a small town community. It's 6,500 people, and just easy and beautiful. And when you add easy and beautiful and stress-free and clean air into all those things, that's love to me. That's me taking care of us, especially my wife. My wife has been retired for quite a few years, and I just wanted to see her smile. And now I see her smile more than I have seen her smile in 30 years. And she talks to people, and it scares me a little bit. Like, yeah, and this is not. She would talk to people. And I'm like, who are you?
Well, I wanna shift gears because you have the house. It's 2019. You buy the house. Takes a little while because of COVID. You do some work. You finally move in, and then you've spoken on your own podcast very openly. I would add bravely about a difficult chapter in your life, which included a suicide attempt in 2022. If you're comfortable sharing, what role did your house play as you recovered from that during that time?
This house was a safe space. It's a place that I knew that being here meant that I was going to be okay. It's really hard to articulate how it felt. But the day that I made my suicide attempt, I was upstairs in my bedroom. And the one thing about old houses is they're really insulated. So if you're in one room, you're not going to hear anybody in any other part of the house. And I had a bottle of pills, and I don't know, the house spoke to me, that glimmer of hope that things were going to be okay, that, I was in a safe space, that, people had loved me. And, I ended up picking up the phone and calling 988 that day. I'm alive today because of that call. I'm very thankful to be alive because I wouldn't have all the things I have now. But the house literally in my room just wrapped me in love and let me know that things were going to be okay. And that if I, just made that one call, because at the time I wasn't sure, I couldn't find my voice and I couldn't find my footing because I didn't really understand what was going on in my head. I was 59 and a half at the time, and we grew up in my generation, we grew up with people telling us not to talk about things. So, I shoved it down as far as I could go. But once I finally opened up about it, it's going to sound weird, Scott, but the house felt even more loving, like it was trying to protect me and protect everything that, my wife and I had built, and all the love and hardship that we'd already been through. Life hasn't been easy. I lost both my parents when I was young, and just being okay with where I was and being okay with what was going on in my head, and knowing that, I had my wife, I had my family, I had my friends that were going to be there to pick me up when I couldn't hold myself up. And it took me, I didn't come down from my room that day for about 3 hours. And then when I, eventually saw my wife, I opened up and let her know everything that was going on. And, it just, since that day, the house has been even more of like a strong hold on me. I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to get on a plane.
You love being, you've become more of a homebody in some way.
I have. And I'm a true extrovert, though. I still need my people. So if you get a random Zoom call, it's because I need somebody to talk to.
Thank you for sharing that. You called the podcast that you host "Shit That Goes On in Our Heads," or, I think the idea is you want to, maybe this experience kind of cracked you open a little bit to the point where you could hear what you were saying to yourself. You wanted to maybe help other people acknowledge what they're feeling, and ultimately that, you're creating through your podcast, creating a safe space. Did the idea come to you kind of, you host it from your house, right?
Yeah, I host from my house. And The idea came from both me and my co-host. So like my two healers are sharing my story and laughing. And so my co-host is the laughing part because we would laugh every day before work. And it was during one of those conversations, she's like, hey, we should do a podcast because what we wanted to do was normalize how we talk about mental health and take away that stigma. And I didn't want people to feel as lonely and terrified in their journey as I felt in mine. And yeah, we run the podcast, from here and from Marietta, Georgia. We're in two different places, and my house is home. It's everything. It's my home. It's my office. It's my retreat from the world when it's going crazy. It's my safe space.
Yeah, I just wanted people to hear that. Home can be a lot more than a place that checks a bunch of boxes. That is for sure. And I've heard so many amazing stories, Gretchen, like yours, where home becomes this launching pad for something much bigger. I mean, you've been on other folks' podcasts. Chris Voss, you had a few million downloads of these conversation owning what happened and how you've grown from the experience. I mean, can you imagine what your life would be like if you didn't create this, that this didn't happen out of, your difficulties and through, having a home that supports you as it does?
I can't imagine what it would have been like. Like if I hadn't made that phone call, I can for sure tell you I wouldn't be here today. But having this safe space has allowed me to really open up. I think I finally found my purpose in life. People tell me that all the time and that I'm a natural conversationalist and I'm super vulnerable. But I think my vulnerability is a huge plus because every time we share our stories, we open up somebody else's prison. And whether that prison is your own home or your job or inside your mind, having a safe space to go to, and if that's your house, that's the best thing in the world.
Yeah. Are there daily rituals or small things in your home now that remind you of how far you come, or certain places in the house that you go to when you're having a rough day?
Yeah. So the first place I'll go if I can, it's not snowing outside, is I'll go outside. I'll take a deep breath of this beautiful country air because there's no pollution here. I don't have any light or noise pollution, so that's a huge plus. And then in my room, I still have the pill bottle of the pills that I was going to take that day on my dresser as a constant reminder of how far I've come. It's empty. I just have the jar, the bottle there, but it helps me remind me of where I've been and what I've done and, kind of what my future looks like. And just allowing people to kind of sit with their stuff, right? But the more we talk about it, the less painful it becomes for people. And you put somebody behind a microphone and they'll tell their whole story before they'll tell somebody face to face. So
yeah, it's amazing how that goes. I mean, as a conversationalist, as a host, in my case, as a real estate professional, to be able to create a space where people can open up, it can change the trajectory of their lives. It can definitely change the kind of home that they end up in, from my perspective. If you could write a note to your past self when you were struggling, what would you say to her now from this place of healing?
Open up, find your words, just find your words, no matter what they are, find your words.
I think that's a wise place to pause for us. And I think more than that, if you're listening to this, finding your words, finding your ability to communicate, it's something that serves you not just when you're going through a tough time, personally, but also in your home search. Because if you can't tell people what you need, I got bad news for you. You ain't going to find what you love in the house.
Amen.
You're going to be mad and frustrated, and you need to talk to the agent. You need to talk to your partner. You need to talk to your family and friends and say, hey, I need more of this, that, and the other. And Gretchen, I really appreciate you sharing some of your story. If people want to listen to your podcast or find you online, what's the best way to track you down?
Best place to find me is go to goesoninourheads.net. We have all our episodes out there, but all our episodes are on every platform in the world. And if you're interested in kind of like what I'm doing on the side now, you can go out to schoesersolutions.com. Easiest way is to find me. All our socials are out there.
Great. Gretchen, thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Pursuit of Home. I hope today's conversation gave you insight, clarity, and maybe even a new way to think about your own home search. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review the show. It really helps us reach more people on their own journey to home ownership. The Pursuit of Home is proudly produced by Fame, the B2B podcast production agency. Find The Pursuit of Home on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you want to connect, you can find me anytime on social media or at Magnetic. Until next time, happy home hunting.